All right, this just gets funner all the time. I quite like rational expressions. In this section, we want to deal with some complex rational expressions and simplifying them. The textbook looks at a couple of different ways at solving them, and we're going to look specifically at one. First off, though, a complex rational expression is one in which the numerator or the denominator or both also have rational expressions. So here I have, here I have a fraction in which I've got fractions on the top and fractions on the bottom, and I need to simplify that. Okay, so like I said, the text looks at two ways, but we're just going to look at the one. I really quite like the first one, and I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. But feel free to look at method 2 and see if that works for you as well. Method 1 says find a lowest common denominator for all the denominators. Okay? Denominator, 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 denominator. So I need to find a lowest common denominator for 3, 5, 4, and 2. I did a little bit of work beforehand. Turns out that it's 60. I think it's 60. Yeah. Then multiply each term by the lowest common denominator. So basically, I'm going to take this whole top fraction and multiply it by 60. So 2/3 plus 4 over 5. And then the bottom, I'm going to multiply the 3/4 minus a half also by 60. Now, notice 60 over 60, that's a factor of 1. I'm not changing anything. I'm just using that idea of factor of 1 to be able to help me simplify something. Okay, so now I'm going to take and multiply 60 by 2/3. I'm just going to do that in my head. 3 goes into 60, 20 times 2, that'll be 40. Plus, okay, 60 times 4/5, that'd be, oh goodness, I don't know. 5 into 60 goes 12, right? And 12 times 4, that's 48. Over, now notice that right immediately when I did that, I got rid of the double fraction. All I have on top are two numbers that I'm going to add. Let's try the bottom. 15 times 3 is 45. 2 goes into 60, 30. 30 times 1 is 30, minus 30. Okay, now 40 plus 48, 98. Over 45 minus 30, 15. Done. If you want to re-express that, you can. It'd be 6, I think, and 8/15. If you want to write it as a mixed number, but an improper fraction is typically good too. Each instructor likes it a different way. Key thing here is to find a lowest common denominator of all of these and then multiply both top fractions and bottom fractions by that common denominator. Notice that these are numbers. It's not always going to stay as numbers. We're going to have letters in there too. But the concept is the same. Oh, lo and behold, here's some letters. Okay, I've got a complex rational expression here. Here's a denominator, there's a denominator. Looks like my common denominator, or my lowest common denominator, will be simply AB. That'll comprise both of those. So I'm going to take the top and multiply it by AB. So this will be A squared minus 16B squared over AB. So all I did was take this whole thing and multiply it by the lowest common denominator. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom. AB times A plus 4B over B. Now I can see that there are factors of 1 here. AB and AB, both of those are factors of 1, so I can eliminate that factor of 1. Similarly on the bottom, oh, there's not an A here, but there's a B, so here's a factor of 1 that I can eliminate as well. So what I wind up with on the top here is only A squared minus 16B squared. And on the bottom, what I wind up with is A times A plus 4B. Notice just that one step helped me get rid of the double fractions. Now I just have one fraction to deal with. The top looks like it's a difference of squares. We'll do that. A minus 4B, A plus 4B. On the bottom I have a times a plus 4b. You're probably ahead of me seeing that there's a common factor of 1 right here. So here's a factor of 1 that I can eliminate, leaving me with, in the end, a minus 4b all over a. Done. That's fini. That's the simplification of that. Some people would say, hey, well, a will go into a, but you can't do that because if you're dividing this, it has to go into both of these. Or you'd have to get a common factor of a up on top here, which I don't have. This is where I would end. Let's try one last one here with these. Okay. Oh my goodness sakes. It's a big one. So what I have to do, oh, denominators. So denominator here and a denominator there. I have to get common denominator. These aren't factored, so I better start with that. Might as well, let's factor the whole thing. On the top, I'll have y minus 3, y plus 2. And on the bottom, I'll have y minus 7, y plus 2. Is that right? I think so. Over, on the top, y plus 5 times y plus 1, all over y minus 7, y plus 1. I hope I have factored all those out properly. Now immediately one thing that I notice is that here on the top I have a factor of 1. So I can eliminate that. So really on the top all I have now is y minus 3 over y minus 7. Similarly on the bottom there's a factor of y plus 1 that's common. So I can eliminate that as a factor of 1, leaving me with y plus 5 and y minus 7. That's a little bit odd. Okay, now I'm looking for a lowest common denominator. Here's a denominator, here's the denominator. They're both the same. So I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply, just like we said before, I'm going to multiply the top by y minus 7. So I'm multiplying this y minus 3 over y minus 7. So that's this part here. I'm multiplying by the lowest common denominator. And I'm going to take the bottom one, y plus 5 over y minus 7. I'm also going to multiply it by y minus 7. When I do that, this and this gives a common factor of 1. This and this gives a common factor of 1. So when the dust settles, all I'm left with on top is y minus 3. All I'm left with on the bottom is y plus 5. Okay, try some. We've looked then at some complex rational expressions, and we looked at one specific method that helps us solve that. And that is look at all the denominators and find one common denominator, and then multiply the top and the bottom by that lowest common denominator. And when you do that, it will simplify the question so that you can get rid of factors of 1, and you'll come up with the final, the final simplification. Gee, that should be plus 5. The final simplification there. Try some questions. Give us a holler if you have questions.